The low hum of the engines echoed through the darkened halls of the warship Vanguard. The vast expanse of space stretched out beyond the reinforced hull, an endless abyss interrupted only by the pale glow of distant stars. Commander Elias Drake stood at the observation deck, his arms crossed, eyes fixed on the stars. Humanity was on the brink, and he could feel it in his bones. His fingers twitched at his side, the faintest reminder of the cybernetic implants he'd received after the war, a necessary sacrifice to keep him functional in the wake of the brutal battles he'd fought. But it wasn't the implants that gnawed at his thoughts. It was the war that was brewing, a war that humanity wasn't fully prepared for. "Commander," a voice broke through his thoughts. Lieutenant Tessa Moreau, his second-in-command, entered, her uniform sharply pressed and her face steely. "The reports from the front lines are coming in. The Xal'nor fleet is mobilizing again. They're coming for Earth." Drake turned, his eyes narrowing. The Xal'nor, an ancient alien race known for their ruthless conquests, had been humanity's greatest threat for years. Their technology outmatched humanity's by a wide margin, and yet humanity had always found a way to survive, by outsmarting their enemies, by refusing to die. "The Xal'nor always come," Drake muttered, turning back to the view of the stars. "But we always survive. This time will be no different." Tessa stepped closer, her voice quiet. "You're sure about that? We've lost contact with the last two outposts in the Outer Rim. We can't keep pretending that we're in control. The Xal'nor are smarter than we thought." Drake's gaze hardened. "I don't care how smart they are. We'll make them regret coming after us. It's not the Xal'nor that will decide this war. It's us." Tessa raised an eyebrow. "That's what you said last time. And the time before that." Drake's jaw clenched. The failure of previous campaigns still stung like fresh wounds. Earth had survived the initial assaults, but the cost had been staggering. Colonies burned. Millions dead. But humanity had clung to life, refusing to bow before the Xal'nor. "We'll fight," Drake said, his voice low and deadly serious. "We'll bleed them dry. And then we'll win." Tessa gave a short nod, but Drake could see the doubt in her eyes. It wasn't the kind of doubt that came from fear. No, this was the doubt of someone who had seen too many battles to believe in easy victories. The kind of doubt that came from knowing how thin humanity's defenses were, and how little room for error they had left. Before she could say anything else, the ship's comm system crackled to life. "Commander Drake, urgent message from Earth Command." Drake's eyes locked onto Tessa's. "Put it through." The hologram flickered to life, revealing the familiar face of General Marcus Hale, Earth's top strategist. His expression was grim, as if the weight of the galaxy itself rested on his shoulders. "Elias," Hale said, his voice firm. "We've intercepted something troubling. A report from the medical station on Mars. The Xal'nor, they've discovered something about human biology." Drake's pulse quickened. "What are you talking about?" Hale's image stiffened. "We don't know the full extent yet, but it's about our blood. The color of our blood. The Xal'nor are horrified by it. They're not just attacking us, they're afraid of us, Elias. They've never encountered a species like us before. And now they're using this knowledge to their advantage." Tessa took a step forward, her voice low. "What does that mean, exactly? How could the color of human blood give them an advantage?" Hale's face tightened with concern. "We don't know yet. But we suspect it's tied to the properties of human blood. Something in the chemical composition. They're not just killing us, they're studying us, trying to figure out how to break us. And it's working. The psychological effect is spreading. Even some of our own soldiers are starting to panic." Drake's mind raced. Humanity had always been resilient, but this was different. The Xal'nor had always been formidable, but now they had something they could weaponize. Something that might unravel the very core of humanity's strength. "They think we're weak," Drake said, his voice low and cold. "They think they can break us with fear. But we're not afraid. We're human. And they don't understand what that means." Hale nodded, his face hardening. "I need you to get to Mars. We're sending you a full brief, But you'll need to see this for yourself. The Xal'nor think they've found our weakness. It's time to show them just how wrong they are." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the cold silence of space in its wake. Drake turned back to Tessa, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. "They're using our blood as a weapon," Tessa muttered. "How do we fight that?" "We don't fight it," Drake replied, his eyes narrowing with resolve. "We make them regret ever thinking they could use it against us." The Vanguard was already en route to Mars, its engines pushing the ship to the limit. Drake stood in the command center, his hands clenched into fists, as the data streamed across the display. The Xal'nor had a history of exploiting every weakness their enemies displayed. But this was different. They weren't just attacking, they were studying. They were dissecting humanity, looking for a way to eradicate them from existence. And the mere fact that they were afraid of something as simple as the color of human blood, it gave Drake a cold satisfaction. Fear was a powerful weapon, but it was also the greatest enemy of any civilization. He turned to Tessa, who stood beside him, her expression a mixture of anxiety and determination. "Get ready," Drake said, his voice steady. "We're going to show them that the color of our blood is the least of their concerns." As Mars loomed large in the viewport, Drake's mind sharpened. There would be no mercy. No hesitation. The Xal'nor had made a critical mistake by underestimating humanity. And now, it was time for them to pay. Drake's hand tightened on the control panel. "Prepare for deployment. We're not just going to win this war, we're going to show them that they've never fought anything like humanity." The Vanguard surged forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever nightmare the Xal'nor had planned. The Vanguard descended through Mars' thin atmosphere, its hull vibrating slightly from the heat of re-entry. Commander Elias Drake stood at the ship's forward command station, eyes scanning the tactical display. The red planet stretched out before him, its surface scarred, its atmosphere barely clinging to life, and its vast deserts hiding ancient secrets that now held the key to humanity's survival. Drake's mind was consumed with a single thought: the Xal'nor had made a fatal mistake. They thought they had found humanity's weakness, but what they didn't understand was the core of what made humans who they were. And they were about to learn the hard way. "Commander, we've reached the coordinates." Tessa Morrow's voice cut through his thoughts. "The medical station on Mars is just ahead." Drake nodded, turning toward the tactical screen. The Mars Medical Station, once a hub for interplanetary research, now looked like a fortress. A single fortress surrounded by the rust-colored dunes of a forgotten world. The Xal'nor had turned it into a high-security site, one that had been hidden from Earth Command's view until now. "How's the situation on the ground?" Drake asked, his voice steady but carrying a weight that matched the tension in the room. "Outpost 14 reports that the station is completely locked down. No communications in or out," Tessa replied, her fingers tapping rapidly on her console. "They're hiding something, Commander." "Of course they are," Drake muttered, his eyes narrowing. "Let's give them a reason to reveal it." The Vanguard settled onto the Martian surface with a low thrum, its landing gear scraping against the dust. Outside the ship's reinforced hull, the red soil of Mars stretched into the distance, where ancient windstorms had sculpted the land into sweeping dunes and jagged cliffs. It felt like the edge of civilization, humanity's last stand, nestled against an alien force that had underestimated them at every turn. Drake's boots hit the ground with a soft thud as he and Tessa led the strike team toward the medical station's entrance. The air was thin, but the suits they wore kept them safe, insulated against the harsh Martian winds. The silence of Mars was deafening, a reminder of how alone humanity had always been, how close they were to extinction. "Commander, I'm picking up multiple energy signatures ahead," Tessa said, her voice tense through the comms. "They've reinforced the area. We're not going to walk in unnoticed." Drake smirked. "Good. I wasn't planning on a quiet visit." The medical station loomed before them, a monolithic structure built into the side of a cliff. The Xal'nor had turned it into an impenetrable fortress, using alien tech to seal off every possible entrance. But human ingenuity had a way of getting past these things. Drake motioned to his team. Focus on the south entrance. Tessa, stay with me. As they moved toward the door, a series of Xal'nor sentries appeared, their sharp eyes glowing with a strange, unsettling intensity. The aliens were towering figures, their skin pale and translucent, revealing the cold, alien blood running through their veins. Their technology was advanced, and they fought with the precision of a race that had conquered more worlds than humanity had ever seen. Stay low, Drake ordered. We move fast. We strike first. The team advanced in perfect formation, weapons drawn. Tessa moved silently beside him, her sharp eyes scanning every corner. The Xal'nor never suspected that humanity had learned their methods of war, and now it was time to turn their own strategies against them. They reached the entrance in minutes, the Xal'nor guards oblivious to the human strike force in their midst. Drake's fingers twitched at his side, his hand steady on his weapon. The blast door in front of them was massive, alien in design, but humanity had brought their own brand of cunning. Tessa pulled a small device from her belt and began to hack the system. I've got it, she whispered, as a soft beep signaled the door unlocking. It slid open with a soft hiss, and the team poured in, weapons at the ready. Inside, the station was eerily quiet, illuminated only by the pale green glow of the Xal'nor tech. The sterile air smelled faintly of chemicals and sterilized metal. This was not a place for research anymore. This was a place for secrets. Drake motioned to the team. Move out. Tessa, stay close. The group advanced through the hallways, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the silence. Every corner, every door was a potential trap. The deeper they went, the more the air felt thick with tension. This was no ordinary medical facility. It was a holding ground for something far darker. Tessa's voice broke the silence. Commander, over here. Drake walked over to her, kneeling next to an open door. Inside, a row of tanks lined the walls, each one filled with a glowing liquid. Inside the tanks were humans. But not just any humans. Their blood was a sickly, shimmering hue, something unlike anything Drake had ever seen before. It was as if the Xal'nor were studying the very essence of what made humanity different. This is it, Tessa whispered. This is what they're studying. Drake's heart skipped a beat as he stared at the tanks, at the humans trapped inside. This wasn't just an attack on Earth. It was an attempt to erase the very foundation of what it meant to be human. They're trying to break us, Drake said, his voice low and filled with disgust. They think they can weaponize us, take what makes us, us. But they can't, Tessa replied firmly. We're not just a species. We're a force. And they're going to learn that the hard way. The sound of boots echoed down the hallway, and Drake turned, his eyes narrowing. The Xal'nor were coming. Ready up! He shouted. This ends now. As the first wave of Xal'nor soldiers rounded the corner, Drake's team was already in position. The battle erupted in a series of deafening gunshots, the alien warriors charging forward with the relentless fury of a species that had conquered worlds. But this time, humanity was ready. Drake's voice rang out, sharp and commanding, as he tore through the Xal'nor lines. Let's show them what happens when they underestimate humanity. The Xal'nor were strong, but humanity had something they could never understand, the will to survive, no matter the cost. As the last of the Xal'nor soldiers fell, the medical station was secured. Drake stood over the bodies, his chest rising and falling with the exertion. The team had won this battle, but the war was far from over. We've secured the facility, Tessa said, her voice steady. But what now, Commander? Drake looked out over the horizon of Mars, his expression cold, resolute. Now we show them that humanity isn't just something they can break. We're something they can't control. And the Xal'nor would soon learn that no matter how advanced their technology, no matter how much power they wielded, they could never break the human spirit. The war had reached its apex. No longer was it just a battle for survival, it had become a fight for humanity's very identity. The Xal'nor had pushed too far, poked too deeply into the essence of what made humans unique, and now they were about to feel the weight of their mistake. Drake stood at the center of the command room aboard the Vanguard, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the holographic projections of the battlefield. The fleet had gathered. A full assault was imminent. The final strike to send the Xal'nor a message they would never forget. "We've breached their defenses." Tessa's voice broke the silence. "The Xal'nor flagship is in range. We've got one shot at this." Drake nodded, his eyes cold. "One shot is all we need. We take that ship, we take the war." Tessa looked at him, her face serious but unwavering. "The Xal'nor won't back down, Elias. They've got their entire fleet here. They won't just surrender. They won't need to," Drake said quietly, almost to himself. "They'll break. They just don't know it yet." The vanguard surged forward, cutting through the endless void toward the heart of the Xal'nor fleet. Their flagship, the Southcall, was a monstrous structure, its jagged edges and sleek surface designed to intimidate. The ship dwarfed everything around it, until humanity's ships moved into formation. Drake's voice rang out over the calms. "This is it. On my mark, we break through. No hesitation. No mercy." The final battle was upon them. As the ships aligned, the hum of their engines filled the void, and Drake's mind was focused entirely on the task ahead. The Xal'nor had underestimated humanity once, and they would not make that mistake again. "Prepare the EMP wave," Tessa ordered. "We're disabling their fleet." The Vanguard was a new breed of warship, designed for strategy, not brute force. Its weapons were silent, but devastating. The EMP wave, once deployed, would shut down the Xal'nor's advanced tech, leaving them vulnerable, exposed, and weak. "Now!" Drake shouted. The EMP pulse ripped through the battlefield, spreading like a wave of electricity. The Xal'nor's ships faltered, their advanced systems scrambling, and the once imposing fleet became a helpless mass of vessels drifting in the void. But it wasn't enough to stop the Southcall. The flagship retaliated, unleashing a barrage of laser fire in every direction. The Vanguard shook as it took a direct hit, but Drake's eyes never wavered. He watched as his team scrambled, making repairs and calculating their next move. The war wasn't over yet. "Full thrust," Drake barked. "We're going in." With an explosive lurch, the Vanguard plunged directly into the heart of the Xal'nor flagship's defenses, its weapons system firing relentlessly, blasting through the enemy's remaining shield generators. The Southcall shuddered with each blow, but it still fought back, a final stand against humanity's unyielding march. "Target their command center!" Drake shouted, his hand gripping the rail tightly. The Southcall had no more shields, its weaponry disabled, and its command center was exposed. The final assault was about to begin. Drake and Tessa led a squadron of soldiers aboard the crippled flagship, boarding the alien ship in a desperate rush. They fought their way through corridors filled with Xal'nor soldiers, their weapons flashing as they battled to gain control of the heart of the enemy ship. It was a chaotic, brutal clash, each movement, each strike, carrying the weight of everything humanity had fought for. And then, as the Xal'nor command center loomed before them, Drake felt something shift in the air, a change that made his pulse quicken. They had reached the heart of the beast. The Xal'nor warlord, Xil'nor, stood before him, towering and unshaken, his cold alien eyes narrowing as he regarded the human commander. The room pulsed with a strange, alien light as the two locked eyes, the final confrontation finally upon them. "You think you can win this war with brute force?" Xil'nor sneered, his voice guttural and mocking. "You humans are nothing but insects, scrambling for survival." Drake didn't flinch. His voice was as cold as steel. "We're not insects. We're humanity. And we never die." Xil'nor laughed, a cruel, hollow sound that echoed through the chamber. "You're fighting a losing battle, Commander. The Xal'nor will never stop." "No," Drake said, stepping forward with determination. "You've underestimated us for the last time." With a swift motion, Drake drew his blade and charged forward, the final clash between humanity and the Xal'nor erupting in a fury of action. Each blow was a declaration of defiance, a testament to humanity's unwavering will to survive, to conquer, to protect what was theirs. When the dust settled, Xil'nor lay defeated, his body crumpled on the cold metal floor of his flagship. Drake stood over him, breathing heavily but resolutely. The battle was over. The war was won. But the cost had been immense. Drake turned to Tessa, her face bloodied but determined. "We did it," she said, her voice a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. Drake nodded, his expression solemn. "We did. But it's not over yet." The Vanguard returned to Earth, its crew battered but victorious. Humanity had proven its resilience once more, and as they watched their world recede from orbit, they knew they had fought for something far greater than just survival. They had fought for their identity, for their future. As the ship descended into Earth's atmosphere, Drake stood at the command deck, his eyes fixed on the planet below. The war had ended, but a new beginning awaited them. And humanity would rise from the ashes, stronger than ever. The Xal'nor had learned a painful lesson. Humanity would never bow. And it was only just beginning.